The Banana Splits Movie 2, Road Split. Chapter 7. Well, Rebecca. The man glanced at the resume again. Rebecca Rayson, that's all well and good, but we need someone with experience. Yes, I understand. Rebecca replied, nervously tapping her fingers on the table. I have nearly 10 years of experience working with various children's shows. In addition, I worked as a kindergarten teacher for 4 years. I assure you, during that time I've learned to understand children better than any market research. The man looked at the woman thoughtfully. I suppose those are indeed valid arguments, but you do understand that we are quite a large company that has been operating and filming episodes since the 60s. We need someone who understands the franchise and the storyline built over so many years. I've watched all the episodes, gone through all the additional content, and analyzed a lot of fan creations. I think I really do understand the banana splits. The work you've done makes an exceptionally positive impression on me. Your responsible approach gives you an advantage in hiring. However, I must remind you that this position requires skills in economics. You need to be able to allocate the budget for sets, equipment, maintenance of animatronics, and many other things. As I mentioned earlier, I have experience working with children's TV shows, so I'm familiar with these kinds of things. The man thought for a moment, then leaned closer to the table a few seconds later, folding his hands together. Rebecca Rayson, you seem like a genuinely good candidate to me. Let's do this. We'll take you on a probationary period, during which you'll oversee the production of several new episodes. We'll air them after evaluating them ourselves. If everything goes well and the new episodes get high ratings from viewers, you'll become our new producer. What do you think? The woman's eyes sparkled with joy. Of course. Thank you so much, Mr. Rogers. Come in tomorrow at 3 p.m., and in the meantime, Andy Victorson will give you a tour of our studio. Another man, who had been sitting on a couch in the other corner of the office by the window, smoking a cigar, suddenly turned around and objected. Me. Why me? Andy, please do me a favor. Take a walk with Rebecca through different parts of the building, tell her something interesting, introduce her to our other employees. Andy let out an annoyed, dramatic sigh, but complied with the request. Fine. Follow me. Andy left the office. Rebecca followed him. They turned left and walked through a corridor into a spacious room. This is our dressing room. Rebecca looked around and noticed a middle-aged drunk man in a bright yellow theatrical costume, sitting on a couch with a half-empty bottle of alcohol. He seemed to have just noticed the guests. Seeing him, Andy spoke up. God damn it, Stevie. Are you drunk again? I'm not drunk, I've just had a little bit. And who's that whore standing next to you? The woman was outraged and shocked by such an insult and was about to respond, but Andy cut her off. Don't pay any attention to him, he's just an idiot. Let's go check out the other rooms instead. Okay. Rebecca said hesitantly. I attract women with my charm. Stevie yelled after them. Fuck you, Stevie. As soon as they left the room, Andy slammed the door shut. Why is he drinking on the job? Rebecca asked, following the man down the corridor. He's always drinking. Takes after his father. That guy was a terrible alcoholic too. Honestly, I don't understand why management hasn't fired him yet. Maybe it's because he's been working here since childhood, when he was a little boy. Over all this time, he's sort of settled in and become an integral part of the show. But that's just my guess. If I were in charge, I'd have fired him on the spot. I see. They entered a huge filming stage. There was the main set, where most of the episodes being produced took place. Several workers were assembling sets, electricians were securing spotlights above the ceiling, and in the center of the stage, artists were touching up a bright yellow bench. Rebecca watched closely. Is it always this crowded here? Today is still calm. Before recording a new episode, it gets about twice as bad. They stopped to let a prop cart pass. I suggest we move on. Better not linger here, work's in full swing. We can look around later when there are fewer people. Andy suggested. Whatever you say. Rebecca agreed. As they walked through the corridors, Andy decided to fill the silence. Did you know that Taft Studio has a total of 12 stages? Yes, I know. This stage, Stage 1, is the oldest of them all. This is where the Banana Splits episode started and continue to be filmed to this day. This place has a very extensive history. You have no idea how many events have happened here. For example, I myself started working here not too long ago, but my colleagues who have been here since the old days have told me all sorts of interesting stories. Suddenly, Andy stopped and paused in front of an entrance to a room with a window in the wall that had steel bars instead of glass. It was the workshop. The sound of a welding machine came from inside. An elderly man with gray hair, wearing a work apron, was soldering two parts of some mechanism together, completely oblivious to the others. That's Carl. He's our chief technician and the creator of the Banana Splits. Andy made a sad, sympathetic face. He has a pretty tragic backstory. In '86, his daughter died in an accident. His wife couldn't handle the grief and also died, hanging herself in their home. These events really affected Carl. He became withdrawn, unsociable, and a little strange. Staff have noticed him talking to the robots, reading questionable literature, and spending a lot of time in the workshop. I don't blame him. He's a good guy who just had tragedy in his life. Everyone copes with it in their own way. You know. Andy paused briefly, as if thinking about something. There are sometimes rumors going around among our employees about Carl. What kind of rumors? Rebecca asked. Well, you see, a couple of months after his daughter's death, her grave was found desecrated. The girl's body had disappeared somewhere. Some maintenance workers complained that in the technical corridors under the building, there was a smell of decay. Some people theorize that Carl himself dug up his daughter's grave and brought her body to one of the underground rooms. They say he's supposedly conducting some kind of ceremonies or rituals there to resurrect her or something. Honestly, I don't believe any of that nonsense, and I don't recommend you do either. Sure, Carl's a bit strange, but he wouldn't do anything that crazy. I don't believe it. Besides, he's a man of science. That sounds horrifying, Rebecca said. It's all nonsense. Our employees just have overactive imaginations. Let me introduce you to Carl. Okay. They walked up to Carl, but he still didn't notice them, too focused on his work. Carl. Andy called out. The man finally turned to the guests and slowly removed his protective mask. His gaze shifted first to Andy, then to Rebecca. What's the matter? I wanted to introduce you to our new producer. Your potential future producer, Rebecca corrected. I still have to pass a probationary period before officially working here. Carl silently wiped his hands on his apron and stepped closer. His handshake was firm but brief. Carl Ludvigsen. Rebecca Rayson. Nice to meet you. He gave a barely noticeable nod. An awkward silence followed. Andy, as if expecting exactly this, let out a low chuckle. Don't take it personally. Carl talks to people about as often as his equipment gets maintenance. It gets it regularly, Carl replied flatly. See. That's already a whole sentence. Rebecca couldn't help but smile. Her gaze drifted over the huge number of blueprints and schematics hung all over the workshop. Wow. I can see you're a very busy man. Before Carl could answer, the sound of an engine came from behind. It was the banana buggy, with 4 animatronics riding in it. Oh, my boys are here, the technician announced enthusiastically. The animatronics climbed out of the buggy and walked into the workshop, stepping around the guests. Rebecca was delighted. Now she got to see them in person, not just on screen. Guys, meet Rebecca, our new producer. Drooper extended his paw forward. The woman looked at Carl. He gave an approving nod, and she gave the robot a high five. Now we've got another friend, Flegel said happily. Glad you've met. I suggest we check out the other rooms, Andy advised. Okay. Goodbye, Carl. Goodbye, Splits. The old man waved, and Snorky let out his signature beeps as a farewell. They're so cool. Rebecca gushed as they left the workshop. You know, some people say the Splits walk around at night, laughing and singing. How is that possible? Aren't they turned off at night? If I remember correctly, they can't be turned off. They just go into sleep mode. I think it's just another tall tale from our employees. But in my opinion, they actually look creepy. I don't understand why kids think they're cute. Adult perception is often very different from children's. I worked in a kindergarten and interacted with kids. Their world is completely different. Maybe you're right. But I'd have sold them off to some company long ago and used the money to do something epic. Rebecca gave him a contemptuous look. These characters mean a lot to children. And not just to children, but to adults who grew up on this show. Are you ready to close your eyes to that and spit in their souls? Oh, come on. There are very few freaks who are that into this show. The audience wants epic stuff, explosions, sex, shootouts, drama. Just imagine what you could do with this robotics. Andy was met with a stern, disapproving stare. They continued walking in silence. The man showed Rebecca the rest of the rooms, introduced her to some employees, and told a few stories, after which the woman went home. Days passed. Rebecca gradually adjusted, carried out her tasks, and oversaw the filming of new episodes. Viewer ratings went up. Some wrote letters saying that in their opinion, the quality had improved and the plot had become more interesting. Naturally, management couldn't ignore these changes and made Rebecca officially the new producer after her probationary period ended. The woman was very happy with her new position. Days flew by, and after them weeks, months, and even years. Everything was going well until one terrible day. 3 animatronics walked past Rebecca. "Where is Drooper?" The woman turned on a small walkie-talkie hanging from her chest. "Does anybody have a 20 on Drooper? Damn it, do I have to do everything?" She walked forward down the corridor irritably. Suddenly Andy appeared from behind. "Rebecca, you got a minute?" "No, I don't. We're about to start and I'm a split short." "Okay, well, I was gonna do this gently, but since you're in a rush, I'm canceling the show." The words made the woman stop. She turned to Andy. "What?" You probably heard about my promotion this morning." "No, I didn't. I'm a little busy, Andy." "Oh, are you? Well, I'm the vice president of programming now, and the Banana Splits doesn't really represent my vision for the network." "Are you kidding? We're still a huge hit." "Yeah, but it's old and stupid. And I want to do something cool and edgy, so today is your last show." "But we have tapings lined up for weeks." "Not anymore." Andy turned around and left, leaving a shocked Rebecca alone. She turned her head and saw Drooper, standing motionless in Carl's workshop. It felt as if he had been eavesdropping on their entire conversation. The woman turned on the walkie-talkie. "Somebody find Carl and tell him to get Drooper out on stage." "Did you remember everything?" asked Paige. "Yes," Zoe replied. "Good. Then let's begin. We stick strictly to the plan." Paige took a lighter from the table and handed it to the girl, then carefully cracked the door open and peeked outside. "No one's there, let's go." The girls cautiously stepped out of the room and moved forward slowly, scanning their surroundings, hoping to spot Drooper before he spotted them. But there was no one. They made their way through the aisles with shelves stocked with chips, canned goods, and sodas. "Do you see anything?" Zoe whispered barely audibly. "No, all clear." The checkout counter came into view ahead. As they approached it, Paige saw a body behind the counter. It was the cashier. The same young guy who had let them use the landline phone. He was lying on his back with his eyes closed. His neck was slightly red, as if he had been strangled. Zoe glanced over Paige's shoulder and saw the body too. "Oh my God. The girl whispered quietly. Paige silently raised a finger to her lips. Is he dead? I don't know. I'll check him now, and you keep watch so Drooper doesn't catch us off guard. Okay. Paige stepped behind the counter toward the body, while Zoe stood in front of it, keeping watch. No pulse. He's dead. Then let's head for the exit. They continued on their way. The exit was just ahead. The automatic glass doors came into view. Both quickened their pace. When they were about 10 feet away, Drooper suddenly jumped out from behind the last shelf, blocking their path. Damn it! Paige cried out. The animatronic began advancing. Zoe, stick to the plan. Don't forget the gas canister. It's on the shelves right by the entrance. Okay. The curly-haired girl ran along the last aisle, going around. Drooper tried to follow her, but Paige distracted him. Hey, you bucket of bolts. I'm here. Catch me if you can. The maneuver worked, and the animatronic switched his focus to her. The chase was on. Paige began weaving between the aisles, buying time for Zoe. She ran around and came back to the same spot where she'd started. Drooper was right behind her. The young woman looked out the window and saw Zoe outside with the canister. Great. Everything's going according to plan. Paige kept running around the shelves. When she looked back, the lion was nowhere to be seen. What the hell? Where is he? Suddenly, Drooper jumped out from the opposite end of the same shelf she was standing by. You sneaky bastard. She had to turn around and run in the opposite direction. Running past the windows again, Paige saw that Zoe had hidden behind one of the gas pumps and was waiting patiently. A long puddle of gasoline stretched right from her, ending halfway to the next pump. Well, time to start the fun, Paige thought, and stopped by the shelf with canisters. She grabbed one, opened the lid, and in one swift motion poured most of its contents onto the animatronic's legs, which by then had almost caught up to her. It didn't seem to bother him at all. He just kept chasing her. The next step was to lure Drooper outside. Paige managed that successfully. The chase continued out in the fresh air. It was starting to get light. The dark starry sky was beginning to break through with the first rays of morning sun. Birdsong filled the calm forest, its tree fingers reaching toward the gas station. The animatronic doggedly continued the pursuit, unaware of any trick. Paige slipped between two pumps, jumping over the puddle, and stopped at a safe distance. Zoe was in position, ready to act. When Drooper was just 2 steps away from the puddle, a loud scream rang out. Zoe! Fire! The girl flicked the lighter. The flame instantly spread across the entire area of spilled liquid and reached the chaser's feet. Since his legs were soaked in gasoline, he caught fire. The whole gas station was illuminated with bright light. Drooper was disoriented. He began thrashing chaotically around the station, trying to put himself out. Silly Drooper. Smoking's bad for your health. Zoe giggled. Let's get out of here. Help will be here soon. We need to get back to Beth and Austin and wait for them to come for us. The girls left, leaving the burning Drooper alone with his fate. Dan was driving along the highway, eating potato pies. Bill was right, these pies really are delicious. He was troubled by thoughts of what had happened at Taft's studio, what he had found in the workshop, and the disappearance of the girl Clara. He constructed all sorts of theories and connections, analyzed details, and simultaneously kept an eye on the road. Morning had already come, so he had to be more careful, as cars of tourists, mushroom pickers, truckers, and other people who might be passing through at this early hour could appear. But at the moment, there wasn't a single car. Soon, however, something else appeared ahead. Or rather, someone else. 2 silhouettes. Dan slowed down. The first silhouette was a curly-haired girl around 9 or 10 years old. She was wearing a yellow t-shirt, white overalls, and a thin orange cape. Her leg was bandaged in one place. The second silhouette was a short-haired young woman about 20 to 25 years old. She wore a black uniform with white trim and a beige skirt. She was extending her arm forward, signaling Dan to stop. The man pulled up to them and got out of the car. "Hello, I'm Officer Dan Murphy. How can I help you?" "Hello. My name is Paige Majola. Are you by any chance heading to the call about a missing child after a car accident?" asked the young woman in uniform. "Yes, that's me. Was that call from you?" "Yes, from me. I made the call. You see, things have gotten even worse. Originally there were 5 of us, me, this girl here." She pointed at her companion. "A young guy, a woman, and a boy. We were driving home after the massacre at Taft Studio and—" The officer interrupted Paige. "Wait, you said massacre at Taft Studio?" "Yes. Don't you know? There was an accident there and the animatronics from the children's TV show killed a whole bunch of people." "That's the thing, I actually do know. Before I came to your call and the call from an elderly couple, my partner and I were inspecting that studio and reporting the bodies we found to headquarters. Sorry for interrupting. Please continue." "We were driving on the highway and got into an accident. When we came to, we realized the boy was missing and we split up. The guy stayed with the woman, his mother, because she had multiple injuries from the crash and couldn't walk. Meanwhile, Zoe and I went to a gas station to call for help, since our phones were damaged at Taft Studio. At the gas station, She paused, as if thinking for a moment. "We called 911 and started heading back, but when we returned, we found no one there. They had all disappeared somewhere. We walked along the highway and found something. We found a banana buggy, the kind those animatronics usually rode around in." Dan clarified. "The same yellow one?" "Yes. That very one. But the most interesting thing is that there were bloody tracks next to it leading into the woods." "Can I take a look at that?" the officer asked. "Yes, of course. It's not far from here. Follow us." Dan turned off the engine of the police car and the trio walked forward.